This case took place on Hong Kong Island, one of the three main regions of Hong Kong, along with Kowloon and the New Territories. In the northwest part of Hong Kong Island is the renowned University of Hong Kong, the oldest institution of higher education in Hong Kong, established in 1910. It is a public research university. The main character in this story is Tina Chan, a 52-year-old housewife. Her husband, Chung Ki-chung, 54, is an associate professor in the Department of Mechanical Engineering at the University of Hong Kong. The couple has two children, their eldest daughter, Chung Si-hui, 28, who works at the Independent Commission Against Corruption, and their youngest son, Chung Si-bo, 26, a dentist. The family of four lived in the Wei Lun Hall dormitory at the University of Hong Kong. In 2018, an event occurred that shattered their peaceful life. On the evening of Monday, August 20, 2018, at the Western District Police Station near the University of Hong Kong, 54-year-old Associate Professor Chung Ki-chung and his eldest daughter Si-hui hurried to report a missing person case. They carried a missing person notice that read, "Missing person. Tina Chan, 52 years old, 5 feet 3 inches tall, weighing 132 pounds, medium build, wears glasses, shoulder-length black hair, missing since the morning of August 17 after leaving home." Chung informed the police that 3 days earlier, on the morning of August 17, he woke up to find that his wife, Tina Chan, had disappeared. Initially he thought she had gone out to buy breakfast, but she never returned. He assumed she might have been in a bad mood, and decided to travel to relax, especially since her passport, which was usually kept in the bedside drawer, was also missing, which made him feel quite certain of this. Chung went on to explain that the night before his wife disappeared, after a full day of teaching, he returned home to find his eldest daughter arguing with his wife. Feeling too exhausted at the time, he didn't intervene and went straight to his room to rest. Around 10:30 p.m., his eldest daughter angrily left to stay at a friend's house. Afterward, his wife also went to bed. They didn't speak that night, and both were on their phones before turning off the lights and going to sleep. To his surprise, his wife had vanished the next morning. As this wasn't the first time his wife had left without notice, he wasn't overly concerned at first. However, after 3 days with no contact from her, and all attempts to reach her phone being unsuccessful, the family became very worried. They printed missing person flyers and distributed them around the University of Hong Kong before going to the police station to file a report. Their eldest daughter, Si-hui, told the police that the night before her mother went missing, she had come home from work and found that the toilet in their bathroom had been sealed with clear tape and smeared with chocolate, which was quite disgusting. Since her father had been teaching all day and wasn't home, she naturally assumed her mother had done it. Feeling frustrated, she confronted her mother, asking her to clean up the mess. However, her mother didn't seem to care, and simply went to her room and locked the door. This attitude made the daughter even more furious. After a long day at work, she was already exhausted, and now she couldn't even use the bathroom at home. The more she thought about it, the angrier she became. She ran to the balcony, grabbed a clothes-drying rod, and started banging on her mother's bedroom door, demanding that she come out immediately to clean the bathroom. After a while, her mother, irritated, opened the door. Seeing this, Si-hui threw the cleaning supplies on the ground and dragged her mother toward the bathroom. During this, a physical altercation broke out between the two, and the situation became very tense. Her mother insisted that she wasn't responsible for the mess in the bathroom and told Si-hui to stop bothering her. Just as the argument was escalating, Si-hui's father came home from work. She thought he would step in to intervene, but he said nothing and went straight to his bedroom. Feeling frustrated, Si-hui realized that continuing to argue with her mother wouldn't solve anything, so she left to stay at a friend's house. She never imagined that when she returned the next day, her mother would have disappeared. In the past, they had argued several times, but her mother never stayed mad overnight. They always made up quickly. This time, however, felt different, and Si-hui was a bit worried about her mother, fearing that something bad might have happened. The next morning, after gathering the basic facts, the police went to their residence at Wei Lun Hall at the University of Hong Kong to investigate. This 16-story student dormitory was built in 1994 and renovated in 2010. The building houses a total of 125 double rooms and 131 single rooms and is equipped with a study room, gym, and other facilities. According to university regulations, each dormitory has a resident supervisor responsible for overseeing student conduct and discipline. The role is typically filled by a faculty member, and Chung was the resident supervisor for Wei Lun Hall. His family lived on the 15th floor, the only family residing on that entire floor. As an associate professor, he enjoyed this privilege. In Hong Kong, where space is extremely limited, having an entire floor to themselves was a luxury, especially with a sea view. Let's take a look at the floor plan of the 15th floor. The yellow area represents the emergency exit, and the red area is Chung's apartment, with a total area of 1,990 square feet. Upon exiting the elevator, you turn left to enter the apartment. Walking down the hallway, there's a bathroom directly across. To the east of the hallway is a secondary bedroom with a balcony attached. Heading west along the hallway leads to the living room, which faces the kitchen. Continuing down another hallway, there's a master bedroom, another bathroom, a secondary bedroom, and a separate balcony. Chung and his wife stayed in the master bedroom, while their eldest daughter and youngest son occupied the two secondary bedrooms. When the police arrived, they found Chung and his wife's bedroom in complete disarray, with belongings scattered everywhere, and even books and newspapers thrown across the floor, leaving no corner untouched. Their youngest son, Sibo, happened to be home, and the police proceeded to question him. Sibo told the police that on August 16th, after returning home from work, he noticed that the toilet seat in his bathroom had been replaced with an old used one. He immediately suspected that his mother had done it, as this wasn't the first time she had done something like this. He explained that besides the Wei Lun building, their family owned 5 other properties in the area surrounding the University of Hong Kong. His mother had rented out all of these properties. In the past, some tenants had complained that the toilet seats were too old, and his mother had taken the toilet seat from his bathroom to replace the one in the rental unit. This action had made him extremely angry. He had a phobia of germs and did not want to use items that had been previously used by others. Furthermore, a toilet seat isn't that expensive, and they could easily afford to buy a new one for the tenant. However, his mother didn't see it that way, and thought buying a new one would be a waste of money when they already had one at home. Because of this, Sibo had a big argument with his mother. Afterward, they didn't speak for a few days. He thought his mother would stop doing such odd things, but to his surprise, she had replaced his toilet seat again. Knowing that arguing with her wouldn't solve the problem, he decided to play a prank on her as payback. That day, he secretly went to his parents' bathroom, sealed the toilet seat with clear tape, and smeared chocolate all over it. Afterward, he went back to his room, put on his headphones, and played video games. He didn't know what happened after that. Sibo's testimony suddenly made Si Hui, who was standing nearby, realize what had happened. It turned out her mother didn't clean the bathroom because she hadn't made the mess. Si Hui felt deeply remorseful, realizing that she shouldn't have lost her temper and forced her mother to clean up. She thought her mother must have been hurt, which may have led her to leave without saying goodbye. According to Chung Ki-chung, Tina Chan left the house on the morning of August 17th. The police then reviewed the elevator surveillance footage from that morning. They discovered a woman resembling Tina Chan in the footage. Chung took a look and immediately confirmed that it was his wife. Afterward, their youngest son Sibo also nodded in agreement, stating that the person was indeed his mother. The missing woman, Tina Chan, was born in 1966 in Hong Kong. She was 52 years old and the eldest of 3 siblings, with 1 brother and 1 sister. As a child, she moved to England with her mother. In 1987, at the age of 21, Tina Chan met Chung, who was studying abroad in England. They fell in love at first sight and started dating. A year later, they registered their marriage in England. In 1990, their eldest daughter Si Hui was born, and Chung successfully obtained his PhD. In 1991, the couple returned to Hong Kong with their daughter to settle down. The following year, Chung was hired as an associate professor at the University of Hong Kong, with an annual salary of over 1 million Hong Kong dollars, about $128,000. Soon after, their youngest son, Sibo, was born, and the family moved into Wei Lun Hall. Their life was quite comfortable and affluent. Tina Chan stayed at home to take care of their 2 children, and in her free time, she started studying the stock market. She had a keen eye for investments and managed to make a considerable profit through stock trading. Between 1994 and 2012, Tina Chan purchased 5 properties in the surrounding area, with a total value of 70 million Hong Kong dollars, approximately $8.9 million US. She renovated all the properties and rented them out, receiving a substantial amount in rental income each month. Chung told the police that his wife was a cheerful person, not only beautiful and intelligent, but also from a well-off family. Marrying her was a blessing for him. Chung thought that his wife's disappearance might be related to her returning to England, as her parents and family lived there. In the past, when they had marital disputes, his wife would often go to England for a while. The police immediately contacted Tina Chan's parents in England, but they informed them that their daughter hadn't returned home. Hong Kong customs also had no record of her leaving the country. The missing person, Tina Chan, had a younger sister named Chen Huixian, who often lived in England. She voluntarily approached the police and said that at the end of July, she had brought her child to visit her sister in Hong Kong, and stayed at a hotel near the University of Hong Kong. Occasionally she would sleep at her sister's home, staying on the living room sofa. During that time the 2 sisters frequently went shopping and to beauty salons together. Chen Huixian mentioned that on the morning of August 16th, she and her sister went to the bank. Once there, her sister told the bank staff, "I would like to open a new account and deposit 4 million Hong Kong dollars, approximately 510,000 USD. That day the bank happened to be offering a promotion where new accounts with deposits would earn a higher interest rate. Tina Chan was very interested in this promotion and asked the staff if depositing an additional 2 million Hong Kong dollars, around 255,000 USD, would bring any additional benefits. The bank staff suggested that a family member could open another new account, allowing them to take advantage of the interest rates for both accounts. Upon hearing this, Tina Chan immediately called her husband, Chung, and told him that a bank employee would be coming to the university shortly to have him sign some paperwork. She asked him to put aside his work for a moment to sign the documents when they arrived. Their phone call was brief, and Tina Chan didn't seem to explain clearly to her husband why the paperwork needed to be signed, before quickly hanging up. The bank promptly sent someone to the University of Hong Kong to meet Chung. Shortly after, the employee reported back that Chung had refused to sign the paperwork and said they could discuss it another day. Tina Chan immediately became unhappy and wanted to switch to another bank to open the account. Afterward, Chen Huixian took her sister to a different bank about 3 miles away. There, her sister took out a check for 4 million Hong Kong dollars, about 510,000 US dollars, and prepared to open the account and deposit the money. However, after reviewing the check, the staff found there was an issue with it, and the transfer couldn't be processed at that time. Faced with this complication, Tina Chan felt embarrassed and upset. Angry, she immediately called Chung to ask for money, but he refused. They argued for a few moments before ending the call. Chen Huixian told the police that after the failed attempt to deposit the money, her sister was in a very bad mood. On the way home, she didn't say a word. Despite Huixian's efforts to comfort her, it didn't help. The next day, her sister disappeared. The police questioned Chung about this incident. He explained that he was extremely busy with work at the university that day and had no time to sign any documents. Furthermore, his wife hadn't explained the details over the phone, and he couldn't just sign something without fully understanding it. Later, his wife called again asking for money, but at that moment he couldn't access such a large sum, so he told her to come home first. They did have a brief argument on the phone, but once he got home they didn't mention it again. He didn't believe his wife would leave without saying goodbye over such a small matter. The police followed up by interviewing the staff at both banks to gather more information. They recalled that Tina Chan appeared very wealthy, but seemed to have a difficult personality. When she was on the phone, her tone was harsh, as if she were giving orders. On the other hand, her husband was very polite, speaking calmly, even when he refused to sign the documents, and courteously asked the staff to leave. At this point, the case still had no significant leads. On August 22, the police returned to Weilun Hall. As they drove up to the building, they happened to see Chung pushing a cart out of the building looking very anxious. The police called out to him from their car, but he didn't respond. So, they parked in the nearby lot and quickly rushed over to Chung, calling him to stop. Upon encountering the police, Chung initially froze but quickly recovered, greeting them and asking if there was any news about his wife. The officers found Chung's behavior strange and asked why he hadn't responded earlier. Chung explained that perhaps he hadn't heard them because of the noise from the cart. At this point, the police noticed that the cart contained a wooden box, with a microwave and some kitchen utensils on top, all covered by a blue dust sheet. When asked what was inside the wooden box, Chung explained that with the new semester approaching and freshmen about to move in, the box was filled with supplies for the students. Since there wasn't enough space at home, he was taking them to his office and would distribute them to the students later. After saying all this, Chung continued pushing the cart toward the parking lot. At this point, he seemed more secretive, completely different from his previous demeanor. Based on their experience with cases, the police sensed that he might be hiding something, although they couldn't pinpoint exactly what it was at the time. They then went upstairs to his apartment to gather more information. At that moment, Tina Chan's younger sister, Chen Huixian, happened to be at the apartment. She provided the police with a new lead. She said that on the evening of August 16th, she was actually at her sister's house and witnessed the argument between her sister and niece. However, since it was a matter between mother and daughter, she didn't feel it was her place to intervene and chose not to say anything. Afterward, she fell asleep on the living room sofa. Around 12:30 a.m., she was woken up by a loud noise. The sound came from her sister's bedroom. Chen Huixian felt a little worried, so she got up and went to the bedroom door to check. The door wasn't fully closed, only slightly ajar. Through the crack, she saw her brother-in-law on top of her sister. Thinking they were being intimate, she quickly returned to the living room and went back to sleep. Looking back, however, she found it strange. If they were being intimate, why was there such a loud noise? Chen Huixian told the police that she now suspected her brother-in-law had murdered her sister. After her sister went missing, she had wanted to go to the police immediately. But her brother-in-law did everything he could to stop her, insisting that her sister had gone on a trip to relax and promising he would handle the situation himself. It wasn't until her niece insisted that they go to the police that her brother-in-law finally agreed to report it and went along. The police asked Chen Huixian if she had ever seen a wooden box in the apartment, to which she replied that she hadn't. At this point, the police formulated a bold theory. The Chung family lived on the 15th floor of the building, and directly above them was the 16th floor, the top floor. However, the 16th floor had remained vacant for a long time. It was possible that after murdering his wife, Chung had hidden the body on the 16th floor, waiting for the right moment to move it out. However, when the police conducted their first investigation, they hadn't checked the 16th floor, so they didn't discover anything. The police now suspected that Chung Ki-chung was the prime suspect in his wife's murder. They added him to the list of primary suspects and began investigating further. Chung was born in 1964 into an ordinary family in Hong Kong and was 54 years old at the time. He had several siblings, and his parents, who weren't highly educated, didn't place much emphasis on their children's education. However, Chung was a diligent student and excelled academically from a young age. After graduating from university, he went to England to pursue a graduate degree, where he met his wife, Tina Chan. The two of them started a family and eventually returned to Hong Kong. Chung had a successful career teaching at the University of Hong Kong, and both of his children inherited his academic talents. Though the family lived comfortably, Chung and his wife were very frugal in their daily lives, never spending extravagantly. Chung even wore the same clothes for several years before replacing them. When the family ate out, they never dined at high-end restaurants. The reason for this was because they had purchased 5 properties. Tina Chan was very enthusiastic about purchasing real estate. Every day she would stay home researching property information and knew exactly which projects were about to go on sale. All 5 properties were purchased based on her recommendations. Later, the value of these properties significantly increased, which made her feel proud, believing she had contributed greatly to the family. However, all 5 properties were bought using bank loans, requiring a monthly payment of over 100,000 Hong Kong dollars, around 12,800 USD. Although Chung's income was quite high, there wasn't much left after paying off the loans each month. To reduce financial pressure, the couple rented out all 5 properties. In her spare time, Tina Chan also worked part-time to help cover family expenses. She believed she had successfully raised 2 outstanding children and had plenty of experience in child-rearing. Because of this, she posted online ads offering services as a nanny, postpartum caregiver, and similar jobs. Chung and Tina were transparent about their finances. Their earnings were pooled together, and they even created a monthly budget, posting it in the house. Their relationship seemed quite harmonious. So, did Chung have a motive to murder his wife? On August 24th, the police returned to Wei Lun Hall. They reviewed the surveillance footage from the days before and after the incident. After watching it repeatedly, they were surprised to discover that the woman seen in the footage on the morning of August 17th, although bearing a resemblance to Tina Chan, didn't seem to be the same person. If that were true, it would mean that after Tina Chan returned home on the afternoon of August 16th, she never left again. Initially, Chung and their son, Sibo, had both insisted that the person in the footage was Tina Chan, but now their statements seemed questionable. As a result, the police re-interviewed the two. This time, Chung still firmly claimed that the person in the footage was his wife. However, Sibo said he wasn't sure if it was his mother or not. At the time, he only glanced briefly and thought the person looked similar, but he had no intention of hiding anything. The police then visited Chung's home for a closer inspection. During their search, they found a microwave in the corner that looked identical to the one Chung had placed on the wooden box when transporting it on August 22nd. According to Chung's earlier statements, those items were supposed to have been taken to the university for the new students to use. So why was the microwave now back in his home? In response, Chung Ki-chung explained that the microwave was no longer needed, so he had brought it home. The police were skeptical, but didn't express it outright. They requested that Chung take them to his office for further investigation. Chung's office was located on the 7th floor of Haking Wong Building, about 1 mile away from Wei Lun Hall. Upon arriving, the police found his office in complete disarray, more like a storage room than a workspace. It was difficult to imagine how anyone could work in such an environment. The police asked Chung where the wooden box was, and he replied that the box had contained electronic equipment, which had been distributed to students participating in a robotics competition. He added that the box had been dismantled afterward. Previously, Chung had clearly stated that the wooden box contained household items for students. Now he claimed it was filled with electronic equipment, which raised even more suspicion. At this point, the police formed a bold theory that Chung had hidden his wife's body in that wooden box, which explained his secretive behavior. On August 25th, Chung was summoned to the police station for questioning. He continued to insist that his wife hadn't met with any harm, claiming she was just traveling and would return after some time. Since there wasn't enough concrete evidence, the police concluded the questioning and allowed him to return home. The next day, the police returned to Wei Lun Hall. They conducted a thorough search of the couple's bedroom but found nothing out of the ordinary. Meanwhile, Chung's behavior appeared increasingly suspicious. He was pacing nervously in front of the bedroom door, seemingly trying to hide his anxiety. At one point, he walked out to the balcony, leaned dangerously far over the edge, almost as if he was about to fall. The officers at the scene quickly realized something was wrong and rushed over to pull him back. These strange behaviors only heightened the police's suspicions. Chung explained that he had been under immense pressure since his wife went missing and had been living in a dazed state. Seeing the police search his home made him feel like life no longer had any meaning, which is why he had considered jumping. The police advised his children to keep a close watch on him. The following day, they brought Chung to the Hawking Wong building for another round of investigation. Along the way, they noticed Chung repeatedly texting someone on his phone, sighing heavily as he walked. When they arrived, the police headed straight to Chung's office. As soon as they opened the door, they were hit by an unpleasant odor. Due to the clutter in the office, the search would take some time. The police began by clearing out items one by one. At that moment, the police received an unexpected phone call from Si Hui, Chung's daughter. She reported that her father had just sent some strange messages to the family group chat, suggesting that he wanted to end everything. She urged the police to keep a close eye on him. The officers then asked Chung to hand over his phone. Unexpectedly, Chung became agitated, shouting at the police, "You suspect me. I don't need anything anymore." Seeing how upset he was, the police didn't force the issue. A little while later, Chung calmed down, realizing he had lost his temper, and apologized to the officers. He told them that the wooden box wasn't in his office, explaining that after distributing its contents to the students, he had dismantled the box and stored it in another office. He then led the police to another office on the 7th floor. In a corner of the room were 6 wooden panels, which had been dismantled from the wooden box. The police inspected the panels but found nothing suspicious. Despite Chung handing over the wooden panels, the police still did not fully dismiss their suspicions of him. Given Chung's agitated state, the police decided that continuing the search might further provoke him. They told him to go home and rest, and that they would continue cooperating with the investigation later. Meanwhile, news of the disappearance of the University of Hong Kong associate professor's wife had spread throughout the campus, and everyone was closely following the case. Later that afternoon, the police called Chung to the Hawking Wong building again. When they arrived on the 7th floor, they immediately noticed a strange smell and asked Chung if he knew where it was coming from. He remained calm and explained that there were often rats in the office, and that the smell might be from them. The police, losing patience, stopped beating around the bush, and directly asked Chung if he had killed his wife and hidden her in the office. Upon hearing this question, Chung's expression darkened, and he remained silent. That day, the police conducted a thorough search of Chung's office. Finally, they discovered a wooden box under a desk. They pointed to the box and asked Chung if Tina-chan was inside. At that moment, realizing he could no longer hide the truth, Chung finally nodded and admitted it. The police pulled the wooden box from under the desk. After measuring it, the box was about 3 feet long, 26 inches wide, and 13 inches tall. The corners were secured with nails and the gaps were sealed with clear tape. The police carefully opened the wooden box and found a black suitcase inside. Water was seeping from the zipper. When they unzipped the suitcase, inside was the body of a woman. Due to the hot weather, the body had become bloated and had started to decompose. She was only wearing underwear, and a wire was wrapped around her neck. Her body was curled up, with a ligature mark on her neck, but no other visible injuries. The cause of death was determined to be mechanical asphyxia. The time of death was estimated to be between August 16th and 17th. After conducting a DNA test, it was confirmed that the body was that of 52-year-old Tina Chan, who had been missing for 11 days. In the early hours of that morning, the police arrested Chung on suspicion of murder. After his arrest, he confessed to the killing and recounted the entire series of events. On the evening of August 16th, Chung returned home from work and found his wife in a heated argument with their eldest daughter over cleaning the bathroom. Such arguments were common in their household. His wife and the 2 children frequently fought over trivial matters. Not wanting to get involved in these petty disputes, Chung went straight to the bedroom to rest. He later heard his eldest daughter storm out in anger, while his wife also went to bed. They both spent some time on their phones before preparing to sleep. His wife had a habit of drinking orange juice before bed, so as usual he got up to pour her a glass of orange juice from the kitchen. However, after taking a sip, she became furious and asked him where he had bought the orange juice, accusing him of giving her spoiled juice. His wife demanded that he get dressed immediately and go down to the supermarket to return the orange juice, or else he shouldn't expect to sleep that night. Chung knew the juice wasn't spoiled. It was just that their eldest daughter had bought a different brand at the store, and it tasted different from the one they usually drank. He patiently explained this to his wife, but she refused to listen, insisting that the juice had gone bad. The argument escalated as his wife grew angrier. She called their eldest daughter, ordering her to come home immediately to return the juice. However, since they had just argued, the daughter didn't want to deal with her mother and simply said a few words before hanging up. At this point, Chung felt his wife was being unreasonable. He criticized her for kicking their daughter out earlier, and now making a big deal out of something so trivial. He told her she was being petty and blowing things out of proportion. Hearing this, Tina-chan became even angrier. She lashed out at Chung, blaming him for not stepping in to mediate earlier, and now criticizing her. She questioned his responsibility as a father. At this, Chung's long-suppressed anger erupted. He retorted that the messy bathroom was her fault, and she was the one responsible for cleaning it up. But Tina-chan refused to take responsibility, arguing that she hadn't made the mess, so why should she clean it? She added that she was already overworked, constantly taking care of the family, and exhausted every day. The argument continued to escalate, with both sides growing more hostile. Tina-chan began bringing up old grievances, calling Chung useless and accusing him of doing nothing but teaching, without caring for the household. She claimed that if it weren't for her insistence on buying properties, the family wouldn't own so many, and it was all thanks to her. Chung felt bitter hearing this. He believed that the 5 houses were a burden, with the family barely able to manage the monthly mortgage payments. Without his salary from the university, they wouldn't be able to afford the properties. How could his wife consider this her accomplishment? Tina-chan, now furious, pointed at Chung and shouted, "You think you're so great. All you bring home is that measly paycheck. If the family depended on you, we'd be out on the street begging." With that, she suddenly sat up in bed and kicked him to the floor. Her action pushed Chung beyond his limits. He saw his wife as a spiteful woman who couldn't be reasoned with. He didn't want to stay in the room any longer, so he reached under the bed to grab his slippers to leave. But his wife didn't let up, continuing to hurl insults at him from the bed. At that moment his hand brushed against an electrical cord under the bed. A dark thought suddenly crossed his mind. As he looked at his wife still yelling, his anger intensified. In a split second he stood up, jumped onto the bed, and wrapped the electrical cord around her neck. Within moments, his wife stopped moving. Chung told the police that after the incident, his mind went blank, and he didn't know what to do. Once he calmed down, he decided to hide his wife's body first and figure out the rest later. He found a suitcase in the room and stuffed his wife's body into it. Afterward, he quietly pushed the suitcase out in front of his son's room and then returned to the bedroom. The next morning, his sister-in-law Chen Huixian woke up and noticed her sister was missing. Chung made up a story, saying his wife had gone on a trip. After breakfast, he drove his son to work as usual. When he returned home, he was alone, as his sister-in-law had already gone back to her hotel. At that point, he found a larger suitcase, transferred his wife's body into it, and moved it out to the balcony. He threw away her passport and identification documents in a trash bin outside to make it look like she had gone on a trip. Because of the hot summer weather, he was concerned the suitcase would start to smell, so he went out and bought wooden planks. On August 18th, when no one else was home, he assembled the wooden planks into a box, placed the suitcase inside, and sealed the gaps with clear tape. He then moved the wooden box to the 16th floor of Wei Lun Hall, an abandoned area where no one would find it. In the days that followed, he continued living his life as usual and occasionally pretended to text his wife. On August 20th, when his eldest daughter insisted on reporting her mother missing to the police, he had no choice but to go along with her. Fortunately for him, when the police first searched their home, they didn't check the 16th floor. Coincidentally, a woman resembling his wife appeared in the surveillance footage, which he used to throw the police off track by insisting that it was indeed her. Later, feeling that keeping the wooden box on the 16th floor wasn't safe enough, he decided to act on August 22nd. He used a cart to move the box, but he didn't expect to be caught by the police. Knowing that the police were now suspicious of him, he bought 6 identical wooden planks and placed them in another office, hoping to divert attention. However, his plan was eventually uncovered by the police. Chung continued telling the police that his relationship with his wife wasn't as good as it appeared on the surface. His wife had a fiery temper, and whenever things didn't go her way, he was subjected to verbal and physical abuse. Their love had long been drained by the petty quarrels of everyday life. If it weren't for their 2 children, he said, he would have divorced his wife a long time ago. After Chung's arrest, news of the University of Hong Kong professor murdering his wife quickly spread, shocking all of Hong Kong. The case sparked heated discussions among netizens. Some people speculated that Chung's murder of his wife wasn't a spontaneous act but a premeditated plan. They theorized that his motive was to gain full ownership of the 5 properties. That night they suggested he might have spiked the orange juice, and when his wife drank it and noticed something was off, in a panic he used the electrical cord to strangle her. Some people also found Chung's youngest son, Sibo, to be suspicious. After the crime occurred, a suitcase appeared outside his room, yet he didn't seem to notice anything unusual. Additionally, during the police investigation, his behavior was somewhat odd, and he even mistakenly identified the woman in the surveillance footage as his mother. Because of this, some speculated that he might be the real culprit, with Chung taking the blame for his son. Of course, these theories are just speculation without any solid evidence. Similar conspiracy theories have continued to circulate. The police returned to Wei Lung Hall to examine Tina Chan's personal belongings. They discovered that Chung had written 2 checks to his wife, along with a promissory note. The checks were for 6 million and 6.7 million Hong Kong dollars. The promissory note stated that Chung owed his wife 6.6 million Hong Kong dollars, and if he failed to repay it on time, the amount would increase to 7.7 million Hong Kong dollars. The police suspected that Chung Ki-chung's motive for killing his wife might be connected to these checks and the promissory note. They questioned him about this. He explained that the checks and note were written under pressure from his wife. According to Chung, his wife felt she had been shortchanged by marrying him, and she demanded compensation. Since Chung couldn't produce such a large sum of money, he wrote the promissory note. 2 years after the crime, the trial officially began in the Hong Kong High Court. Chung was charged with murder and obstructing the lawful burial of a body. At the trial, the prosecutor argued that Chung killed his wife over financial and property-related disputes. They claimed that Chung was in full control of his emotions when he committed the murder. If he had truly acted in an unconscious state, his first reaction after the incident should have been to try to help the victim, not to hide her body in a suitcase and conceal the truth. In response to the prosecutor's accusations, Chung denied the charges. He explained that he had endured years of verbal abuse and emotional suppression from his wife. She constantly said things that hurt his self-esteem and dismissed his contributions to the family. This emotional torment caused him to lose control and act out in an extreme manner, which he insisted had nothing to do with money or property issues. Chung's 2 children also testified in court, stating that their mother was a controlling person who often scolded their father over minor issues. They described their father as a mild-mannered man who rarely had conflicts with others. They believed that their father had been emotionally suppressed by their mother for so long that he finally snapped. Additionally, a close friend of Chung testified. He stated that Chung was known for his kind nature, dedication to his work, willingness to help colleagues, and genuine care for his students. In contrast, he described Tina Chan as someone who was difficult to get along with, always nitpicking, and never willing to back down in interactions with others. She even had the nickname Thinner, a playful wordplay created by her friends based on her English name Tina, referring to her fiery temper. The same friend mentioned that before the incident, Chung had recently been sick, and his physical condition had noticeably weakened. After recovering, his mental state was no longer the same, and the long-term emotional suppression from his wife might have led him to lose control, resulting in the tragic crime. The judge pointed out that the key issue in this case was whether the defendant had committed the crime while in a state of provocation or mental breakdown. This would determine whether he would be convicted of manslaughter or murder. In the end, after 8 hours of deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. The court sentenced Chung to life imprisonment for murder and an additional 28 months for obstructing the lawful burial of a body, with both sentences to be served concurrently. After the trial, Chung disagreed with the verdict and filed an appeal. As of now, his appeal is still going through the legal process. Additionally, 352 students and colleagues signed a letter petitioning for leniency in Chung's sentencing, hoping the court would consider reducing his punishment. Many netizens also expressed deep sympathy for him, believing that he had been married to a difficult wife. So, was Chung's claim true, that it was simply a moment of losing control that led to the crime? Perhaps only he knows the full truth. This case has shocked the public, not just due to its severity, but because it occurred in a family seen as highly educated and socially respected. The Chung Ki-chung case will likely remain a topic of discussion for a long time, raising important conversations about marital pressure, domestic violence, and the need to resolve conflicts peacefully. What do you think about this case? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section below the video. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.